Hi, this is Maginoni, and let's talk about the next round of AVX, shall we? Now, we have three wonderful titles to talk about today. We have Legacy X-Men 270, where you have Rogue, Miss Marvel, Demons. New Avengers, number 28, with a rampaging Red Hulk. And Wolverine and the X-Men, number 14, Date Night. Alright, let's take a look at what we have going for us today, shall we? I want to do New Avengers first. Now, there's actually some good in this, because what this is basically an issue where the Red Hulk is trying to find his place and everything in this big story, I guess you can say. There's a lot of him like talking about how people are looking at him, about how he's basically has more experience than Captain America, and and of course he's a general, and Cap is just a captain. So there's a lot of interesting dialogue, and eventually he goes, "Why am I here? Why am I here? Oh, I know why I'm here. I'm here because Cap wants me to do something that he can't do. So obviously he wants me to assassinate Cyclops." So he studies some tapes, and then he decides to go kill Cyclops. He changes back into Thunderbolt Ross, and then he infiltrates Utopia with expected results. Now, this is where I have... Now, I read it first, and I said, this is just nonsense. But then I said, you know what, that's not giving this thing a fair shake. So, I looked through the book again, and like I said, I discovered there is some really good parts in here. Now, I'm going to get to the nonsense in just a second, and what kind of, and I still kind of think that there's a lot of nonsense, but everything that led up to this point, was a fairly decent read. The way they presented everything, and I thought it was a good if anything, it's a good character study for the Red Hulk, in that for those of you who don't read the Hulk or know who he is or know much about him. So I thought that was great. Now here's where the problem is, and here's a little bit of spoilage. Red Hulk obviously gets caught, and he gets beat. But, they're like, well, what are we going to do with him? Because, I've read his mind, and he's punched a Watcher and hit Silver Surfer with a surfboard, so what do we do? And they're like, well, let's get rid of him. And, okay, this is my first thought. Throw him into the sun. Just throw him into the farthest sun possible. And problem solved. Okay, maybe you don't want to throw him into a sun. So what about using magic to open up 1, 2, 3, 4 portals? That way you can chop off the arms, cut the waist, and one over the head, poof. And then send those body parts through all parts of the galaxy. Problem solved. Because obviously if he can punch a Watcher, hit the Silver Surfer with his surfboard, why do you want him around? Right? Okay. This is Marvel, I understand, so let's talk about number 3. Why not send him to the farthest possible remote planet, so that way we can have Red Hulk planet, or Planet Red Hulk. And that way he can come back and, at the last possible moment, with an armada of ships and aliens, and save the day. So that's another option. But no, they decided to send a message. Now again, my thought is to send a message, send him the head. Send the head back to the Avengers, and it's all good. No, their idea was to carve an X in his body and drop him on the Avengers. Now, this is the part where I said you have completely lost your mind. Let's think about this. The Avengers are in hiding. They have hope. The Hulk gets dropped. Just literally dropped in their lap. with an X on his chest. You know what happened to him. Why is nobody concerned that the X-Men know where they're at? Shouldn't there be alarms going off saying, hey, wait a second, they know where we're at? And nobody seems to care. You know, I'm like, please, you guys are idiots. I mean, you're just asking to get beat when you do something stupid like that. 2, what type of a message is an X on his chest? Yeah, I understand it's very symbolic, but you know what? If this takes place right before, yeah, I mean, hell, yeah, this probably would have taken place right before AVX 8 because Scarlet, I mean not Scarlet Witch, but Emma sent Namor to this place, same place, and guess what? The X got healed in that short of period of time. You know, wouldn't maybe a better example might have been body parts, like I said? Yeah, that's what I think, you know. But I don't write these books, you know. I don't use that kind of logic, especially when you're fighting somebody who can punch a Watcher and hit the Silver Surfer with his surfboard, which they mention in this book, and that's why I keep mentioning it. Now, the fact that they were able to send the Red Hulk back to the Avengers, and then the only person who knew the location of this place was Emma, is ludicrous. I mean, this is another example of a major plot hole loop that they just left open and didn't bother to pay. You know, let's just write this story because I think this looks cool, and we won't worry about the details. No, you have to patch these details up. You know, if the Avengers had the alarm going off saying, "Hey, there's a problem," or maybe in AVX 8 the Red Hulk dropped in the middle of the book, that would have been better. A little bit better, made sense. But no, they didn't do it. They left these 4 looking like, you know, chumps, while their base has been compromised, and they don't seem to understand that. Horrible. All right. Let's do X-Men Legacy. So, if you remember the last issue, you have some Avengers who are captured in basically in an installation where Danger is running them through a simulation, mind simulation of escaping. The very dangerous ones go into limbo, right? So Miss Marvel would be considered a dangerous villain, so they throw her into limbo. And I thought the torture that they're putting her through was awesome. You have key moments of her history that would be considered traumatic. You have a demon like Rogue, you have Deathbird, you have the Brood, and I know I forgot the guy's name, but he was an Avengers villain who appeared. It's not Michael Krovac, but it was another guy, and he basically told her, you know, let's run away together and live and have monkey Marvel love in space, and she goes, okay, and he's there. So I thought, fantastic. You know, they did their homework on Miss Marvel, and that's great. And notice her costume. Okay, so she's not Captain Marvel yet. So again, we have continuity problem. Now, Magic then gives Rogue a tour. And what do we see? Now, when I saw this page, you know, I decided I've really had it with these problems, and this actually caused me to do this. Look at the 3 characters that are here. These are the same 3 characters that are locked away in New Avengers that are in their mind trap. These 3 are the most dangerous Avengers possible. Spider-Woman, Luke Cage, and Hawkeye. I guess what must have happened is when they're running through their simulation so much, they proved to be very dangerous because they kept escaping every single time they ran that simulation. So they must have thought, oh, we need to put them into hell. And they threw them into limbo. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? This, it's these inconsistencies, it's these types of problems that really bother me to no end with this crossover. There's no oversight, there's no editing, proper editing, nobody's talking to each other, and people are just being lazy, and they're on their own agenda instead of writing a cohesive story. And this is the type of thing that I've been saying from the very beginning. This has got to stop. They have to have better editorial control, and they really need to focus on providing us a better story from start to finish, rather than throw in the end where you make the big event happen to make everybody go, oh my god, that was just a bunch of nonsense, or the very shocking event at the beginning that makes everybody go, oh my god, look who just died. Now, to top this off, let me explain else what's going on here. If you remember the last page here, this is another problem I have, where you have a writer who can't, and a writer and an artist who is too lazy to properly do these stories. Look at this. You have Miss Marvel being tormented by every one of these demons is a nightmare for her. Every one of these. So let's look at Spider-Woman. They throw her in a web and she's about to be eaten by a spider. Luke Cage, he has the weight on him, and then he's got the demons tormenting him. You have Hawkeye, his bow is standing right there, but he can't use it because his arms and legs are snakes. I mean, that would be torture to him. So those are great. I mean, while Luke Cage might be a stretch because it's the weight of the world, I guess, everything, all that and other nonsense on him. But let's look at Quicksilver. Quicksilver has ungodly amount of demons. But look who he has. He has regular freaking demons. Regular demons. Let's talk about his problems. He's got daddy issues, he's got sister issues, he's got ex-wife issues. And none of those three things are addressed in this one panel. This panel would have been perfect for that. Let's also talk about the fact that this is freaking Quicksilver who can run faster than you can do anything. Why can't he just run away? The door is open. He can just zip through like that and he's out. If there's one candidate who should be in that chamber for the mind thing, it's Quicksilver. But they screwed up again. Look at this here. These three here, they're in each one of these three here are in some sort of cocoon-like thing, so at least they can't get out. Quicksilver, either these holes are super big so he can just still run through it, or he's open. It's in an open area. My guess is the hole is so big these holes don't even matter because they can just crawl right out if they get out of their torture trap. This type of nonsense is just driving me up the wall angry because they just screw it up every single time. Every time they start to do something good, they come ramming like a train and fuck it up. And I'm getting so sick and tired of this stuff. The rest of the issue is basically Rogue trying to save Miss Marvel because she realizes what's going on is wrong. Well, maybe I think what Rogue should be focused on is bad editing, bad writing. It's these inconsistencies. That's what she should be mad at. She shouldn't be mad that Miss Marvel is being tormented by demons, please. Freaking mess. Now, let's talk about Wolverine and the X-Men #14. The hot date. I swear to God, when I saw this, I was already... This is what I did. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. What you have here is Colossus trying to get his relationship back again with Kitty Pryde. And it's comical. I mean, it really is. You have to understand the situation. I mean, he's the Phoenix Force, and then he's trying to act like Rico Suave, and he's doing it wrong. And this is the part, once I saw this panel, and I want to know if you see it before I point it out, but this one panel I saw just made me totally crack up because it put this whole dining experience in a whole new light. And This is just an accident. The panel is right here. Okay? Imagine this. Kitty Pryde is at dinner. Right? Colossus has separated the ocean, so this way they can get live seafood. And they have the wonderful sunset. But because Kitty Pryde has this ginormous wrist bracelet on her arm, it looks like she's attached to the chair and she can't get out. I was like totally cracking up when I saw this because it looked like she was basically being held up against her will. And when you see a panel like that, it's like you put two and two together, and she's basically she's about ready to get date raped by Colossus. And I was cracking up. And not that the fact that it was date rape, because that's bad, obviously. But, I mean, it was just that bad mistake in terms of the way they did that panel. And Colossus was actually going to propose to Kitty Pryde, but luckily Kitty mouthed off and said no. And there's another really disturbing panel in this thing where, it goes back into time, and like hours before type thing, and you have a meeting of the headmasters and head teachers and things like that, and you have Husk. Well, Husk basically, they're talking to Husk, but they're not really talking to her. They're talking to her skin, and because she just shed it and she left it. And Toad is like going, hey, if nobody minds, I'll take that skin. And I was like, what are you going to do with that skin? He's dating the skin. He is having tea parties and dating the skin. I swear to God, I was cracked. This book just skyrocketed to a whole new level because I'm like, this is wrong on so many levels. I'm sorry, but this is like, like when you're going to school in grade school and your teacher and your mom goes, look out for Mr. Danger, Stranger Danger. He is the epitome of stranger danger. I'm like, oh my freaking God. And he's got the tongue. It just all adds up. He even volunteers to teach people how to use their tongue in combat. What is he doing with the skin? What is he doing with the skin once he finishes the tea? No one wants to know. So anyways, the date doesn't go well. So what happens is Colossus gets angry, and he decides to attack the school, and he jacks people up, he hurts Kitty, and date's over. I was still laughing at the fact that Colossus is trying to wine and dine her with her wrist thing, making it look like she was held captive. I was still cracking up with that. Now, Aaron is still writing a really good, solid story. I think, unfortunately, there are some really good things and some bad things about this. Because, what he's really doing is this. He's setting up the fact of, here's Colossus. He's trying to do something, I don't want to say noble, but, it's in character. He loves Kitty, and he wants to get her back. And I think that all of that is great. It's great writing. And what's happening is he still has the Phoenix, Force 5 power in him. And that is slowly corrupting each one of these characters. And this is the issue where you see the corruption in Colossus. So that's why I think, overall, this is a really strong issue, even though there's some hilarity inside of it. And I think the premise, while the premise is hokey, it really is exactly what Colossus would have done. And it's basically setting the stage. Okay, he's normal. Okay, no, he's not quite normal. And he is basically turning evil. And the Phoenix Force is basically corrupting him. And we've already seen the corruption in other characters. So for that, it kind of everything else that fits in. So I think for that, on that aspect alone, it was a decent read. Anyways, I have 2 codes. So, do I have 3? Oh, I threw that book away. Okay, I have 2 codes to give away. What I'll do is I'll give away this code right now, and in the comments. If you post where you would take Kitty, what restaurant would you take Kitty Pryde to eat on a date as your thing, I will choose one of those comments and choose one person a code for this book. Anyways, here's the code for this. And like I said, I know I was kind of harsh with this book, but they really did some things that they really needed to do, and for that I appreciate that. It's just that they really do need to work on the ending. And here that is. Okay. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. Rate the video up or down, let me know what you think. I'll have more reviews later. Until next time.